Happy Sunday, everybody. Only live, the last Sunday live of the year. Moving forward, we'll be doing it on Saturdays because Sundays will be dedicated to football. So anyway, hope you all had a good week. I sure did. I just got back from Vegas, although the pup didn't come with me. Morrison. There we go. Although the pup didn't come with me. Here, we go back this way. I don't want to bother him. Sorry, dog. Pup didn't come with me, but a drummer in one of my bands is getting married, so I had to do the whole Vegas thing. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed it. I knew that I was going to be a little out of touch, so I've been dropping sexy tips and tricks and tactics twice a day, every day, all week long for this week and next week too, because why the fuck not? And so welcome to the group, welcome to the chat, welcome to what we're doing here. Hi, Evan. Hi, Chelsea. How you doing? We had over 500 new requests in the last week. This is taking off. It's amazing. You know, there's about 1,000 of you guys that followed me from group to group to group. When I was going through all the gurus that kept suggesting that I keep doing this thing, and now we're hitting a point where we're going to probably have over 5,000 at this rate by the end of the month, maybe more. So everybody new to the group, hi Bilal, how you doing? Remember, we got a Patreon where you can get all the ebooks and more help there. And also just to say thanks. And I think I'm going to try to do some more exclusive content there too to really help people out. Where maybe I do like video responses to questions or something like that. We got a Slack channel, which is a way to get direct access to me 24 hours a day, as well as some other really top advertisers inside of this group, where you can share like personal information, screenshots of your dashboards, ask for really specific help, get emails to reps and phone numbers and all sorts of good things. Also, we do one-on-one phone calls. And so anything where you want some real one-on-one help, the most common use of that thing, honestly, is to get people set up on a Scrum doc so they can do tracking performance across multiple platforms, really understand what they're doing, as well as I'll build it. And while I'm building it, people just ask me every fucking question they can. I remember we also have a bunch of ebooks, which you can find on the Patreon for free. In addition to that, if you do any of the homework that comes in the beginning of any of the videos that we have on the channel, then you can get 50% off any of the things that we just mentioned. And this whole month, which I guess is ending with today, even though it's the first month, whatever, is about undermining the gurus who take any of the advice, any of the tips that have been posted this week or last week, copy and paste them into any group that is selling courses, or like it's some guy that's like, go into anywhere where somebody's trying to profiteer off of old data and sell advice that is probably not that good for money that they shouldn't be charging, and is giving results on something that's not like a one-day post. Go into anywhere where somebody's selling something for training and drop those pieces in. Screenshot it, send it to me. I'll give you 50% off anything. That's the homework. It's just that easy. This group was founded because I kept getting kicked out of groups for providing better advice for free and linking the Facebook blueprint and undermining all the gurus that we've had. And as we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of having this group, I want to get back to those things because that's where you all started to follow me. Guys like Raba and Dylan and Yulia and Jennifer, and I mean there's and Brent and Brad and Tony and I mean the list goes on and on and on. Men and women from all over the world. And anyway, that's what we really wanted to. That's how this thing started. So I want to get back to that for our anniversary. So thank you very, very much to everybody for that. In addition, I've been dropping a lot of those things today. So I feel like, and I got a lot of questions on them. So I'm going to go through today and just try to answer all of the questions that we had from these pieces this week, because I feel like that's probably the best use of our time, because there's a lot of stuff to digest, and I want it to make sense for everybody. And I know we're on a little bit earlier today than usual, but that's just the way of it. So I think, let's get into there. before we dive into that too, one of the things that's been really active on the Slack group and in some private messages is how much are people making? Like, how much can people bill? How do people make this of their full-time career? So I want to tell you about my journey through this, and then we'll get into the tips and tricks and questions, because I started out at $10 an hour, and now I'm doing well. Hey, Lamont, how you doing? So anyway, the way this started for me was at $10 an hour data entry. And I started to take on other clients at $10 an hour, which I knew was less than I was worth, but it meant that I was always busy. And if you're always busy, then you're learning faster, and it means that you're always earning, right? So it's like, would you rather make $10 an hour and be busy 12 hours a day, or make $20 an hour or $50 an hour and work 5 hours a week, right? So it was always undercharge and over deliver. So I went from $10 an hour, and when I was getting like 4 or 5 hours of work a day from that, I started to charge 15. And then I started to charge 20. And this is back in the day where it wasn't even so much ads. It was me managing people's Facebook pages and coming up with content strategies and, scheduling posts out on their account and doing like follow back stuff on Instagram. It was me providing value to small businesses and people that didn't understand what they were doing, but they knew that they needed to do it. And what I can tell you is right away, that's one of the best types of clients that I've ever had. Some of the best clients that I ever had when I was getting started was like small haberdasheries and like vintage clothing stores, and then like real estate agents and barber shops and local little stores in my town. I mean, my town is Los Angeles, so it's a big city, but local stores in my town, and just being able to provide them some value where I would literally go there. And I mean, I remember there's this spot called Blank Studios, and it was like a clothing store. I would literally show up. She would buy me like a coffee, and I would sit at her computer for like 3 or 4 hours during the day and just bang shit out for her. And I'd go like once a week, sometimes twice a month. And I did. And doing that alone, one, got me really, really good at managing my time and being able to over deliver, because I wanted to get the fuck out of there. And because I knew if I was there, I couldn't be earning somewhere else. And also answering questions from people in person and being able to solve those problems for people on the fly made me very, very quick at what I was doing. Now, as I went a step forward, I never charged my old clients more than that, but I got other people like authors and personalities. But because I was sitting there doing the job in the office, like at the front desk, honestly, I got a reputation from her clients and from her people. When you are in person doing work, when you are on site doing work, when you are over delivering and undercharging for your work, you will get a reputation. People will know who you are. And then she had a friend that needed help and had like 4 other friends that needed help. So I turned that one job that was $40 a week into something that was $400 a week just by stacking up more people from her friends. And that was at like $10 an hour. I made it basically a full-time job. Now, for all of her friends, I started to charge more money. So I charged them $15 an hour. And I told her like, hey, look, I'm just starting out here, so I'm doing 10, but for your friends, I'm gonna charge 15. Hi, Michael. And for y'all coming in here, I'm talking about, we're getting into a lot of sexy tips and tricks and tips that we launched this week, and you have a lot of questions about that. But for a lot of people, this is about how do you make this a living. So I'm telling you how I got from ground zero to being somebody that runs $1 million companies in a space of a few years. And how you can make this a career path for you, and how much you should charge and how you can get there. And then we'll get into all the sexy shit for ads. But we're coming up on a year, and I just kind of want to tell you how I got to where I'm at. So, and take notes and ask me questions. And remember, ask any questions you can here, and I'll answer every question that's asked, no matter what it is, whether it's about my t-shirt, fantasy football, or about Facebook ads, Google, Bing, whatever the hell you got. We're going to get to it, and I'll be honest and forthright with you. Anyway, so I had the client that was $10 an hour. I was in her office, and I had like 2 or 3 of those. Everybody that they recommended me to, I charged 15 for. Right, so I was charging her 10, charged all of her friends 15. It got to the point where when they introduced me to their friend, I charged 20. Because I'd be like, well, I'm giving you kind of like the buddy rate. I'm going to charge your friend a little bit more. And everybody seemed to be fine with that. Because it was a job that was massively undervaluing the work. And it was people, and I found that the best people were somebody that needed 4 or 5 hours a week. They would like meet me at like a Starbucks or at their place of business or something like that, where they'd get me food and get me coffee, and I'd just sit down and answer questions for them and really provide value. Because a lot of times when people pay somebody for a service, it's somebody that does a thing somewhere else. When I was sitting next to the person and basically just taking the little few tips that I had and training them, it made me a lot better. And it meant that that person valued what it was that I was doing, and they understood what I was doing well enough to see the importance of it, but not really well enough to do it for themselves, because honestly, they're doing with plenty of other things. So I started to do that, and then I got more and more and more. And this was, again, before ads. I was doing mainly growth hacking and organic content and a bunch of stuff like that. What ended up happening was I started to get to the point where I was able to charge like a monthly rate. I started to charge people $500 a month. And then their friends like $700 a month, or then their friends like $1,000 a month. And after about a year or so, I started to have about 2 or 3 people who I was charging them $1,000 a month, and a couple of people where it was like $20 an hour, and I was able to make a living doing that, and it was great. But what happened was, one of my $1,000 a month clients fired me because they put their credit card, they ran a Facebook ad where they spent like $100 and they got way more results than all the work that I was doing organically for them for $1,000. Now, that $1,000 a month was about an hour and a half of work every day, tops, doing purely organic stuff like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So anyway, they basically gave me notice because they put some money into Facebook and blew me out of the water. So they were like, hey man, I love you, but I spent $100. I can't give you $1,000 for the same thing. And I totally understood. And to this day, that guy's traveling the world doing that for a bunch of other people. So what I did was I put my credit card into Facebook and I started promoting my bands. And I started putting work out for finding people that needed to understand Facebook ads and wanted businesses that needed Facebook ad help. And I started off at $1,000 a month plus 5% commission on ad spend. That's where I started. And for $1,000 a month plus $1,000 commission, I was able to get 2 big clients, which were basically small businesses that knew they needed Facebook ads, that had like a Facebook ads guy that didn't really work out, or some chick that was like, kind of work on something else and they needed to do some things. But because at that point in time, I've been working for businesses and been able to, deliver business objectives, I understood how to talk to people. Because I understood how to talk to people, and I understood that what I was doing on Facebook was just an extension of the organic piece. And this is before conversion objectives were even an option. This was all link clicks and engagement posts. So I found businesses that needed link clicks and engagement posts, right? So it wasn't about necessarily selling stuff. It was about helping businesses get more visibility, right? So it was like, there was an entertainment company, a PR firm, and I was able to do all of their digital stuff for them. And they would have, a big, because this is LA, right? And I'm not saying this is something that everybody can do, but it worked for me. But they would have big clients come in, and, they would, have a red carpet event, or have hi Willie, or Sinatra and Michael, and David, hi. They would come in and, need somebody to promote this red carpet event or this, thing in People magazine or something, whatever, right? Because every kind of propaganda, press thing is all paid for. But they would regularly have budgets of like $500 or $1,000 to promote a thing, right? Because they would sell a PR package for a couple $1,000, and part of it was a Facebook ad. And so I would handle all of their Facebook ads for like $1,000 a month plus 10% commission. they knew, if they sold 10 people on a $500 package, they're making $5,000. They pay me $1,000 plus, 500. They pay me a very small portion of that to basically do nothing. For them to basically do nothing, and that it was a great value add to all of their stuff because other PR firms weren't doing it. So then it became basically a secret weapon for them. And through that, I also was able to build websites for some clients where it's just me going onto Wix in an afternoon and being like, I'll build you a website for $1,000, go onto Wix, knock something out, okay, a couple of emails, and then start to stack a couple of other bits of management, right? And then I learned, and then that's when I started to stumble onto the Instagram growth tools. And I started to sell that as a service to the PR firms, where I would sell to them for $200 a month. I would grow the Instagram of their clients, so they would charge their clients like $500 and just white label my services. This is where things really started to pick up, was getting people to white label the service and then finding people that didn't really need conversion objective campaigns. Because at the same time in my private life, I was running conversion objective campaigns to try to sell tickets to shows or t-shirts or whatever. I was running stuff for my band where I was spending $10, $50 a day with conversion objective campaigns so that I could learn all of it. But I was getting a couple $1,000s a month from, one or two clients. The other client was like a t-shirt company that was selling stuff. And so I was able to basically be paid to learn this stuff because I knew how to work the system better than somebody else because I've been doing it for a bunch of people. And the real, I think, story from that is that underselling yourself, staying as busy as possible means that you're in the weeds. And when you're in the weeds and you're talking to a bunch of different people, you get really good at explaining what you're doing and being able to show the value of what you're doing. And because you're getting income from several different places, when you get a lead from one person, you're charging $10. Everybody that $1, that $10 person, everybody that they suggested me to, I charged $15, and everybody they suggested me to charged $20. Like I just upped it by $5. Nothing seemed unreasonable. And by the time I was charging like $40, $50, like people would say no, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I was too busy with the other people. And I started to transition more and more away from the younger folks, from the earlier people for $10 an hour. But that was the organic side. And on the paid side, when I found a way to maximize my skill set to pay myself, which was really by finding people that needed my service, that understood that they needed that service, but didn't necessarily understand how to do it themselves and were too busy to do it themselves. So they were successful businesses that were selling the service, and I was doing it for them. It was very much like at a restaurant, right? Like at a restaurant, you're buying the atmosphere and the food. You're not actually paying anybody to do that for you, right? You're just paying the restaurant for that service. The restaurant is hiring a cook or a bunch of cooks and a chef to do the job. Maybe it's a chef. So I've found myself as essentially a line cook, right? Or in construction, I was a guy, with an impact camera just putting shit together, right? Like I wasn't actually the person running the shit. I was just a worker in the group. And because I was a worker in the group that could do the work of more than one person, because a lot of people were already scamming the system by doing a legitimate job and undercharging for my services, I was always busy. So anyway, I was able to do that for a couple $1,000s a month, which was great. And then I took a swing where I saw a job at an ad agency that was 3 times what I was getting paid. And they needed a supervisor role. And I went out for it. I dressed nice and I said, here's all my clients. And I had a shit ton of clients, right? Because I'm charging everybody $10, $20 an hour. They don't know how I'm doing. They don't know how I'm doing everything. But they knew that I was able to walk the walk and talk the talk. And because I could do that and I knew reports and I was smart, they hired me to be a supervisor role, which, they had people working there forever. And that got me to CBS and Nissan and Henkel, so I was doing like Persil and Loctite and Schwarzkopf, a bunch of products. So I started running major billion-dollar-a-year brands. And from there, I got training from Facebook, and I really leveled up really, really fast. When you're in an ad agency, I recommend that everybody that wants to run ads, if you can get a job at an ad agency for like a year, it's really, really, really valuable information. That's the fastest I've ever learned from anybody. And I was a bad employee. I found a way, instead of just trying to spend the money and make reports, I did the best I could to challenge everything every day from every person that I possibly could. And I see your questions. We'll get to them in a minute. And so as I challenged everything, I became a liability to the company, but I learned really, really fucking fast. And then I went from there to another small company, the DR type stuff, because I learned that selling stuff on the internet was the thing I was best at. And then I went from there to a Facebook media partner, a piece of software that sits on top of Facebook. And then I went from that Facebook media partner to another client side where we were doing 30, 50 million in sales. And now I'm doing all sorts of stuff. But really where it really, really blew up for me was 3 steps. Number 1, when I went out and was willing to go essentially to everybody that I knew and said, hey, I'm the Facebook guy. Let me help you out. I'll do it for $10 an hour. Like, I'm mowing fucking lawns, right? I just need some money. And I'm willing to sit next to you and do all of this work and teach you how to do it. And I'll charge you fucking next to nothing. Get me a coffee and a donut, and we can just knock this shit out so that you can understand it and I can do it for you. And then everybody that they introduced me to, I charged more. That kept me to the point where I was always busy. The next big thing for me was finding a company that would pay me to do what I did, but where they're basically white labeling my services. So the PR firm was huge, right? Because that PR firm basically, more or less what they did was they found me clients, right? So like when they would get an actor that needed this or a writer that needed that, or some restaurant, what they were doing is they were basically saying, okay, we're going to charge this person $1,000 and we're going to give you $500 of ad spend and $50 commission. And so we're going to do that a couple times a week, and we'll give you $1,000 a month to do it. Now for me, that was great because it was like really easy, and I learned so much because I was solving a million different problems. And the honest truth is that PR firm, they were the one dealing with the clients. I had one client that dealt with everybody. So that got me a shit ton of experience. And when I go to my resume and I say, here's all my clients, it's like just a fucking laundry list of people, which means that I was able to talk to a bunch of people with experience among a huge, long laundry list of types of problems. And when you can solve a bunch of problems and you can do it all yourself and you're undercharging and over-delivering, you're never gonna be hungry, right? So, and then the next big step was I took a shot to work at an ad agency, and I worked there for 9 months being a supervisor for stuff. And then I just started bouncing around because I realized that everybody at that ad agency was taking directions from the platforms, and they were taking directions from, gurus, right? They were taking directions from all these people. And this is where I got this big anti-guru thing, this big anti, all that stuff. Since I realized that's all that they were doing, and they were doing it in a way, an ad agency is a bank. Their job is to take $100,000 from you, shave 10% or 20% off the top, and then spend that $80,000 so that you can go to your boss and say, hey, I spent the $100,000 and here's what we got. And their job is to also say, you gave me $100,000. Here's what you could have done for $150,000. They're a bank. They're not actually there to do a good job. I would get in trouble at an ad agency for doing a good job. An ad agency's job is to always leave room for improvement so that somebody can come back to you so that you can see every month things get better. As you spend more and more money, performance improves. That's the ad agency's job. They're selling their clients on improved performance. That's also the job of everybody selling courses. and all the gurus and all the experts out there that are doing big things, from the fucking Ty Lopez's to the Jay Shettys to that Jay Shetty shit is hilarious, by the way, to the all of those fuckers, right? And I know them, they know me. I appreciate them, but I understand where they're coming from. They're selling stuff. So one of the reasons I don't want to give away everything for free to undermine them is because if you take what I'm giving you and try to undermine them, you can help other people avoid getting ripped off, and hopefully you become the person somebody asks questions to. And if you can become the person that people are asking questions to, maybe you can be the person that can do some work for them. And if you do some work for them, well, then you're getting paid. And if you're getting paid from one person, maybe you can get paid from 5 people. And if you can turn that into a career like I did, I mean, I live in Los Angeles, which is a really expensive city. And 7 years ago, I was a touring musician, radio personality that was basically an unemployable mess. And now I'm good. Like, I'm not going to, I don't have a fucking Lamborghini to show you because I don't waste my fucking money. But I'm at a spot where I don't need to worry anymore. And I just want to help other people get there. And that's why I started this thing. And that's why this group has come around, because I got sick and tired of other people that I saw that reminded me so much of the people that were just frustrated and that I see. And like, the number one way I found is if I undersell what I do and I over deliver, I will always have more opportunity. And because of the good faith that I've built with people from that, I've always been able to have something better around the corner. And that's why I started this thing. And that's why I started going after these groups, because it helped me talk to everybody that I talk to in a way better than anybody else. You can see when a salesman goes in. When Ezra Firestone walks into a room, he's a salesman. He's not even a practitioner. He doesn't even do the work. And when he goes into a room, you can tell right away. When you get him in a room and actually try to get to the nitty gritty of what's going on, there's a guy like me behind it that he's selling the services of. And he's smart. He's a great salesman, but he's not actually doing the work. He's selling the work, which is fine. People find value from it. He's got good help. It's good advice. I mean, it's a year old and it's kind of obsolete, but good for him. And I know that he's inspiring and people dig it. Gary Vee's another person like that. He's not really doing a lot of the work, but he's thinking about it and he's the one driving it. And some people are fucking disciples, and I was for a long time, and I find a lot of value about what he has to say. But I'm here to basically just try to help people out. And this is a long fucking tirade, and I really appreciate it. We all sticking around. But yeah, so that's how I went from $10 an hour to making, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but I will say now that for me to come on board to work with somebody, my hourly rates, I don't really even charge hourly anymore. But the last person that I worked with, let's just go there. I do phone calls for several $100s an hour. But we can get them 50% off if you do the homework, because I'm charging everybody else the same rate, but I want to take care of you. And all you have to do is copy and paste some shit. And it's worth it, right? Like, if you can pay a couple $100 to make a couple $1,000 at the end of the month, great profit margin. Again, underselling myself. And then for me to work on board with clients, I regularly charge in the several $1,000s a month plus a commission range. I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty, but a typical client for me will be it will be north of $5,000 a month after commissions and fees and everything else. 5-6 years ago, I was doing $10 an hour. I think every one of you can do that. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. I'm not telling you it's an overnight success. I don't think that my path is going to work for anybody else, but I think if I tell you how I got there and I help you every step of the way, then you can do something. So anyway, that's what I wanted to get into. So love you guys. It's a half an hour into this thing. So let's get to your fucking questions. All right, enough about me. I'm egocentric as it is. Let's get into your fucking questions on the week. Okay? Let's do it. All right. Questions from the live, and then we'll go into the stuff from all the week. And then if you're watching, ask any question you have about anything. Sorry, for me, the comments are right here, but for other people, it might be in this section on the mobile. Anyway, ask any question you have. No question is too big or too small. Don't feel like you're being stupid. So many times I get direct messages from people asking questions. I'll be like, please ask this in the group, and then I will answer it for everybody because you're all asking the same thing. I promise. The question you think is so unique and so dumb and so weird for you, I've probably gotten it from a dozen people this week. So ask away. Let's get into it. All right? Let me grab some coffee. Morrison, how you doing? You good? This is Morrison's favorite thing, by the way. This donut. If you scratch it, it smells like a donut. And then the backside is chocolate, and it smells like chocolate, and he fucking loves the thing. I don't blame him. You ready, Morrison? Ready to go help some people? Yeah? Boop. All right, let's do it. All right, Sunetra asks, hey, Charlie, great value. I have a question. Facebook is asking me to delete few custom audience. What happens if I do not delete custom audiences? I have more than 300 custom audiences. Will the new audiences not perform well if I go above 300 and do not delete old custom audiences? Well, Sinetra, first off, mazel tov for you for the workload to get 300 custom audiences. I would maybe side a little bit. Hi, Waleed, by the way. Nice to see you. I would maybe side with Facebook a little bit in here that 300 custom audience is probably not necessary. However, I don't know your business objective. What I would do is I would go through, 300 is a lot, but I would go through, I make this a lot of times. I will make a document for Facebook that I attach to the Scrum doc. I usually make like a Facebook Bible. Or not Judeo-Christian terminology, whatever. I'll make a giant Facebook handbook, like a Google Doc. And in there, I'll put it down all the audiences, and I'll put in all my active ads, and I'll put in daily performance. And that really, really helps me see the landscape. I would be willing to bet that out of your 300 custom audiences, unless you're running like 50 accounts in there, there's probably no more than maybe 20 audiences that are really doing a good job for you. Now, there's probably a lot of custom audiences that are helping out in retargeting and in retention that are being used more for exclusions than inclusions or sources for lookalikes. So honestly, thinking about it, there's probably, I could easily see you having 50 or 60 audiences that are really high value. But I would look at, go into your custom audiences and sort by date created and go in and see, was there something you made like 2 years ago that you're not really using? Because the honest truth is, and I do this a lot, is I think because we have the option of using a lot of things, we try to use them. What I can say is I find people and ad accounts perform better when you make the best out of limited options. I would challenge you to go through and delete 50 custom audiences and see if you can get away with uploading maybe 10. I don't know what all these custom audiences are. I don't know if they're still on, but if you can reply back with what these 300 custom audiences look like, I'd be really interested to know. Also, I would look at trying to find a way of populating your audiences dynamically, either using the Facebook pixel or some other third party. Like a lot of people use like Klaviyo or some other back end way of updating audiences on a regular basis. And that way you don't necessarily, I would assume if you have 300 custom audiences, they're probably like CRM uploads, where you're uploading like CSV files, right? You're uploading personal information. And what I would say is when you upload raw data like that, it becomes on day one, it's really valuable. By day 30, it's not really up to date. By month 6, it's almost useless. So I would find a way to try to replace your uploaded CRM data with more of a dynamic list. I mean, maybe you can upload, for instance, if you want to say customers, right? And you want to do way more than the Facebook pixel because maybe that's not a completely accurate representation. Maybe you can take all of your customers that you've had, upload them into one big, huge bulk list. So take all your customers, upload them into one big, huge bulk list, and then find a way from a Shopify or WooCommerce or something to tie in every new purchaser and add it into a dynamic list so that you can say, in all of your exclusions or inclusions, whatever, here's all my customers, and then you're layering on, so that's one audience, and then you're layering on as the second audience, everybody that comes from this dynamic list that just keeps adding. So between those two, you should be able to handle everything. So you don't need to do month over month or year over year uploads. It's 2 audiences. But that's a way of simplifying it. And then if it's simpler, it tends to be better. Facebook likes you to be lazy, or not lazy, but work smart if you can instead of working hard. Facebook rewards that. I don't know why, but that's, maybe it's just clever engineers or something. Who knows? Anyway, let's see. He says, Sinatra says, yes, when I try to delete old custom audiences, it says I cannot delete as I have made a lookalike audience. Okay. So you've got old custom audiences that you made lookalike audiences up of. So it's telling you that you can't delete the custom audience because there's a lookalike being dynamically uploaded off of it. That's a bit interesting. I would say go through your lookalikes. Do the same practice, but go through your lookalikes and understand really what's bringing you value. I'm willing to bet you that you've got a lot of lookalike audiences. Man, that's a lot of reactions. I don't know who that was from, but you hit a lot of buttons there. I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of custom audiences. There's a lot of lookalike audiences that you've made over the years that were made since the time, but you're not currently using. And in an effort to simplify your ad account, to make it more efficient, there's probably a lot of overlap that you don't need to cover. So, I mean, if it were me, I might even go up and take out like a couple sheets of paper or giant sticky notes on the wall or something and go through and just say, okay, here's my lookalikes that I'm using. Like literally go in and write down, here's all the lookalikes that I'm using. And I'll use this in a Google Sheet all the time. Here's all the lookalikes that I'm using. And you can export, I think, your custom audiences too now, which is great. But here's all the lookalikes that I'm using. And then here's all of the lookalikes and sources and whatnot that aren't being used at all. If you can categorically just eliminate entire swaths of things. So maybe there's purchasers from 2017 and you made 20 lookalikes off of it. You can delete all that data right now and it won't negatively impact your performance at all unless you're using it, which I doubt you would be. Because there's 2018 data and 2019 data. And recency is more important. So anyway, I would take a look at that stuff and really get into how you can sum that down. I would challenge you, Sinatra, right now, today, or this week, or whatever, to go in and delete 50 audiences. And actually it'd be wonderful if you could do that, and if you'd be willing to share some of that inside the group. I'll post it for you and give you some ebooks, or give you the 50% off on anything. Anything I can do to help you out there, I'll do. Because I think that's a great lesson. And I think that that's a really common thing when people have all these fucking audiences that they just don't need anymore. So, Sinatra, if you can find 50 audiences that you want to get rid of and are willing to share how you identified them and then how you got rid of them, I'll give you 50% off the Slack, the Patreon, some ebooks, whatever you want. Let me know and just screenshot it, post it up, however you want to do it. Yeah, and let's share with everybody because that's a really valuable lesson, and that's not something I've thought about. And honestly, people need to know because this is a problem that everyone's going to have. So I really appreciate it, and let's see what we can do to help you out. So get rid of 50, and I'll get you anything I can, okay? All right, awesome. You had a second question. Second question, how can I attach multiple pixels to a store? Trackify allows a maximum of 3 pixels, and I want to attach 4. Any way out? So I don't use Trackify, although I am in the Trackify group just to post, just to help people out. But I know that I have seen no limitation to the number of pixels that you can place on a site when using Google Tag Manager. What I will say is if you put a bunch of pixels on a site, it will slow down the site load. It will sometimes give you errors. You're not actually able to track. Not every pixel load all the time. And I would also ask you why you needed that many pixels. So for example, I have run an e-com site with 500 products or 300 products or 100 products with 1 pixel. In addition, I've also run internet service thing, like a digital service, where we were doing, a shit ton of money, and we used 2 pixels because there was 2 primary customer journeys that were very different. And we used 2 pixels, one to optimize somebody down one journey, one to optimize somebody down another. If you're getting to the point where you're getting 3 or 4 or 5 pixels, I would say that it probably means that you've got competing things, and I would wonder about why you're doing it. Let's see, you had some things. So you have 3 ad accounts and 2 business managers. That's why you have 4 pixels. Okay. I would say, you can share a pixel from multiple ad accounts and multiple business managers. And so you're clearly doing a lot of work here. So this is awesome. Love it. You can share that 1 pixel from one ad account to another or from one business manager to another. You can share those rights. And the learnings that come with it and the tracking that comes with it. And I would highly recommend you doing that so that you don't have duplicate efforts. If you have 2 pixels on 2 different ad accounts, they can both take credit for the same action. Now, if your intention is to make a really beautiful report to a client that won't necessarily understand what you're doing, then use Google Tag Manager and throw in a bunch of pixels and take credit for a lot of stuff a few times. If you want to run a legit business that doesn't necessarily do that and you're trying to run this for yourself, I would try to take that 1 pixel and share it. What's going on here? I would try to take that 1 pixel and share it to as many places as you can. If the business objective of that pixel is the same, then the pixel should be the same. The only time I find that it's really valuable to have different pixels is if the customer journey is very, very different, or if the objective is very, very different. For instance, I've occasionally worked with, so how can I attach pixels from a different business manager? Sinatra, you can go to Facebook and you can do pixels and you can hit share. And inside of the business manager and assets section, you can assign parts. You can assign resources to other accounts. Actually, while we're doing this, let me explain what we're doing, and I'll see if I can't find it on Facebook Blueprint. and sort of how I was doing this before. So when I was using multiple pixels, to run on a single business, what I was doing with that was I had a client one time who had a service where you could send in your oh, here we go. You could send in your cell phone to, here's somebody from a couple years ago, but hopefully it's a good place to start. No problem, man. Here we go. This is hopefully a decent place to start. Anyway, back to it. So I had a business where you could send in I had a company, it was a client who had, you could send in your business, you could send in your cell phone, and they would give you money, and they would resell it. So they had two very business objectives. One was getting people to send in their cell phones, and number two was getting people to buy cell phones that people had sent in. Those are two very different customers. Those are two very different conversions as well, because they're basically buying and selling. So we had 2 pixels for it. I have somebody that I worked with where they were selling an online service where they would kind of like look into personal information for people. Now they had one service where you could find information, and then one service where you could, kind of take care of yourself, right? And those are 2 very different objectives, right? One is you for looking at other people, and one is you looking at yourself. And those are different objectives, different pixels. I've had also another type of service where it was like that was using in the car space, the automotive space, when I was working for Nissan, I guess. I hide it because we already told you I work for them. We were spending $1 million a week or some shit like that. And they had 2 pixels, and one was very much of somebody that was, they would call it tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 service, where tier 1 was a national, just awareness campaign. Tier 2 was like a regional people interested in buying, and tier 3 was an actual like individual locations services and site, so you can find a dealer. And what we would do was we were tracking, each one of those had their own pixel. And so each dealership obviously had their own pixel, but we were also mapping out so that when somebody would go global, universally across all the United States, it was just an engagement campaign. There were people, on the site, Nissan.com or whatever. But once you started getting into more local situations where it was really like, okay, well, what's available in my area? Let me do some research. That was a separate type of customer, because it wasn't just a window shopper that saw a car commercial. That was somebody that was interested in making a purchase. So one pixel was very much the brand promotion pixel, and one was very much a converter pixel. And if you get a bunch of window shoppers on really expensive cars, they're never going to buy. And when you pollute the data of actual car buyers with the same information, it's really confusing to Facebook. So it didn't really work that well. So when we separated it out, it made a lot of sense. So what I would say to you is try to map out your pixels to business objectives. If you're basically selling something, then there's really no reason for you to have more than 1 pixel unless your products are so tremendously different that the customer journey is different. For instance, like with the cell phone. 1, they were buying cell phones from people, and 2, they were selling cell phones to people. That is 2 very, very different customer journeys. And a conversion on one of them was, oh, somebody's going to send us a cell phone. Conversion over here is somebody bought a cell phone. Very different journeys. So hopefully that helps. Now, there's obviously reasons why, there are exceptions to the rule, and I love hearing those. And if anybody's got any, please feel free to drop them in. But until then, I'm keeping my eye on the comment section over here for me. But I'm going to go into the group where we still have 576 fucking member requests, which is mind-blowing to me. Look at this. We're at 4.6 thousand people. I'm going to show you something real quick, and then we're going to do some more questions. But just as a matter of like how insane the last bit has been, I'm going to show you the last 28 days, or the last 60 days. Okay, so this is a graph of the last 60 days. See that steady growth that steady growth was basically what we were doing. And then some point in time in August, shit blew up. Now those giant spikes are because I couldn't approve everybody every day, but look at that shit. I don't mean to toot my own horn or nothing, but like, look at that. Look at that. God damn. So thank you guys. We're up 2,000 members in the last 60 days. That's a 484% increase. And I'm rejecting people like every day. Because they're like, you know, some porn account or somebody that made an account in the last 24 hours. I generally reject people that have made a Facebook account recently because it's clearly spam. And I've got 30 pending posts, 29 questions I need to answer from here. So forgive me, people. It's been overwhelming, and I've been I played music, 2 music festivals, 3 music festivals, and a bachelor party in the last week. So I'm catching up. I haven't forgotten about you. Anyway, let's get to, I posted a lot of things this week, and I want to answer all of your questions from all of the things. So let's get right to it. By the way, when you guys come into the group, I tag you in a thing that shows you where to join the Patreon, and I really hope you guys take advantage of that. And I think when I first started this group, I used to have a higher level where you could join the Patreon, and we used to raffle off one-on-ones. And I'm thinking about doing that again, but I need enough people to do it. Otherwise, it's like, if 4 people do it, it's just like, why don't I just give them a half price and call it a day? I don't know. I need to know that there are enough people to be interested. Anyway, so use of a community. One of the least utilized tools in Facebook is the community. If you have a plethora of diehards, why not let them do the selling for you? While social proof is like an Amazon review, right on your ad, a community is an entire customer service department for free. For my biggest sales work, almost all my conversions drive to community, which now has grown to over 200,000 people. This is for a client. Not everybody is going to be 200,000 people, but you see the point. Also, when I make new ads, I drop them in community, and the members go in and leave tons of positive comments. This massively lowers my CPMs and increases my CTR. This is free and very powerful. What is your community? So what we mean by this is a Facebook group. Now, social proof on ads is something that we all love, right? We're running engagement campaigns or stuff like that, which you shouldn't do. But if you have a customer base, especially if you have an ongoing customer base, if you have a Facebook group where you can provide help for that customer base, then when new people want to understand, you can invite them to the community, and then your existing customer base can help convert new people. This is actually a study that I'm about to do with Facebook. We're really going to find like what's the CPA of getting somebody into your community, because your community is going to sell them on stuff. It's a whole other thing. But if you have a community, one of the big pieces in this is at the very end is when I make new ads, I drop them into the community, and the members go in and will comment. So what we can do there is, say you've got, we'll use the example of Morrison's Dog Food, couple up. So if Morrison's Dog Food has a new ad, what I could do is say I've got a dog lover community that's built around Morrison's Dog Food. I could go in there and I could build an ad in Facebook and get the URL of the ad and drop it as a post in that community and just ask people to comment, hey, can you guys comment some really nice things about this? I appreciate it. What that does is it increases the positive sentiment on the ad, and it increases the estimated action rate, which we've talked about a lot, which means you're going to get a lower CPM and a higher CTR in CPM. So you're going to get a lower cost per 1,000 impressions, because Facebook views that as an ad that people want to engage with, and they want to engage with it positively. So you're going to get a cheaper, Facebook will favor you over somebody else in the auction. So you're going to get a lower price for your bid, which means you're going to get lower CPMs, lower CPAs, And generally because of that, when you also have a bunch of positive comments, people are more likely to click on it, more likely to engage with it, because what is popular is something that's popular, right? If being in the music industry forever taught me anything, it's the number one way to get a hit song is to have it played everywhere. How do you get it played everywhere? You pay radio stations to play your music. So if you want to be wicked famous, you buy it. That's how Taylor Swift got popular. That's how the Beatles got popular. That's just the way it works. The Beatles went on the Ed Sullivan show, and they paid 2/3 of the audience were girls that they had paid to go ape shit whenever they were shown on screen. And so what happened was everybody at home saw these groups of people that were on screen. And this is right around the beginning of women being able to be sexual beings inside of American pop culture. So teenage girls would see the Beatles on stage, and this is, a couple of years after Elvis, so the ground had been broken. Teenage girls were able to see the Beatles on stage, and every girl thought the Beatles were amazing in the crowd. And so because you'd only heard the live records, which were great, when they played, you only heard the records, which were great. When they played live, half the audience was just going batshit insane, so you couldn't really even hear it anymore. So it sounded like they were as good as the recordings, which they were. They were really good. But there's a psychological impact of people like really popular things. And the same thing happened for Taylor Swift. Her dad owns Swift Trucking, and then, there's a bunch of other stuff. Hi, Brian. So anyway, if you want your ads to be more popular inside of Facebook, make sure that you launch them with a bunch of really positive comments, which it means that you take your ad and you post it inside of a community if you have one, or a Facebook group if you have one. And I would challenge you to try to make one if you can. It's harder for drop shippers, but for brands, it's really easy. Because you can just go in there and that's where you're asking questions and helping people out. But then if you have one, when you put an ad out, before you actually spend any money, you might have 10 or 20 positive comments and a bunch of likes. And then when people see something with a bunch of positive comments in it, people are like, oh, what's this? You're immediately more popular. You're immediately more legit. And you have better engagement rates, which means you have a lower auction price, which means you're going to get better results day one on spending money on your ad. So that's a way of growth hacking Facebook ads. So anyway, Ryan had a question. He said, can a community be the followers of your Instagram page? Theoretically, yes, but not for this application. Question 2. So basically you take the post, and he's asking as an application. So basically take the post with massive engagement and then use the same post to create an ad, and then add the Shop Now button as an organic Instagram post. Don't have Shop Now, lose the shopping link, which links to a product URL. And then you use that ad. Here, I'll just show you the question because I'm reading it to you. You guys can just read it. So he's saying basically take a post with massive engagement and then use it to create an ad. And then use that ad with massive social proof to create new ad sets that you serve to cold traffic. Ryan, you get about 90% of what we're trying to do here. I would argue that while you understand the theory, the practice is just slightly askew. What I would do is I would take your ads and post them organically. Take the URL, sorry, you can tell I've got damaged fingers from playing. See that right there? I broke my skin playing too much guitar. Anyway, take your ads and then post them organically. Like just post them from your Facebook page or inside of your group or something. And then get the massive engagement on your ad and run that. And that's what we're talking about here. So where you've said there's a post with a bunch of engagement, let me make it an ad, I would say take your ad and try to get massive engagement. Now, if you have a post that has massive engagement, you can take that post and run it with an ad. If you hit, this is a great little hack, if you hit boost post, which we should never hit boost post, but if you hit boost post, You can then add a CTA button to it. So boost your post for $1. Add the Shop Now button, grab the URL. It'll keep all of the engagements and then run it as an ad with the button on it. And it looks a little funky, but it's basically a Facebook post with a shit ton of engagements and a CTA on it. And you can run that as an ad, and I've done that a lot, especially when repurposing influencer content. Really big. So anyway, that's that. Let's see. Next one. Oh, who's that? I don't even know who that is. Okay, here we go. Instagram. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. Instagram engager retargeting. Okay, we all know that we love Facebook engagement audiences. And if you don't know about this, you can make audiences from people that have engaged with your content. Just the way you make anything else. You can get a Facebook page or Instagram page. But I see a lot of times people ignore the fact that you can do this from your Instagram account as well. Especially if you have a really popular Instagram account or you want to target a younger audience, you can find the people that are engaging with you on Instagram and hit them with Facebook ads. And it's very, very easy. I would recommend starting with people from the last 7 days, but also the last 365 days is a great prospecting audience. It's technically retargeting, but it should be huge, and it's people that aren't necessarily in the buying process. So I've treated them as prospecting audiences, and they generally outperform cold traffic. And let's see, we got a question. Sky says, I don't get how you get influencer ad accounts and target them engagers. How do you do it? So what I would say to you, Sky, is if you work with an influencer, then part of your contract with that influencer can be to get access to that influencer's page so that you can post from their page, which is a pretty common practice. And there's several people inside of this group that are phenomenal. Dika Nilsson is probably the best at getting that. And you just put it in there. It's just like, page editor access. And because what you're doing is basically you can sell them saying, hey, I'm going to run an ad. I want to run a post, or I want you to promote something, and I'll respond back to the customer service stuff. But I need to be able to do that. So you get editor access to just ads on the page, right? And then when you get access to that page, you also get access to the engagers of that page, so you can target the engagers of that page with your content, and that's better than fans. It's better than an interest group. It's the people that are actively engaged with that person's content recently. But they might have no fucking clue who you are, but you can hit them up, and you know that it's somebody that is regularly engaging with that influencer. It's also really good for pages, especially if you have a really strong organic game, and you want to try to sell something or get some sort of influencer piece, or some sort of, not influencer piece, but some sort of paid media against people. That's a great way to do it. Back when I was running, hey Jake, how you doing, buddy? Back when I was running influencer stuff, we're trying to work with actors or comedians or writers or people that have a really strong organic game, and they want to promote like a thing. It's really easy for you to target the engagers of that page. And then, so say you're an actor and you're posting stuff all the time. You can post to people that engage with your content, and then promote anything that you want. And it's, that's people that are engaged with your brand. So it's a great way of leveraging your organic stuff as basically a way of finding a retargeting audience for your promoted stuff. What's going on here with my hair? Who knows? I should probably... Who knows? Anyway, use of a community. We just did that one. The exclusions piece. We got 2 likes on the exclusion piece. We didn't really get into it. I'm only going to try to answer your questions. We're already an hour in, so I'm not going to go over that one. If I repost it and we get more people interested, then I'll cover it. Let's see. Ooh, here's one. Using a platform for what it does best. Facebook kicks ass for creating demand and scaling the creation of a market. But what other platforms do you use and for what? I love Google. It's really easy to clean up sales and you can get 10x on your numbers really easy. Snapchat gives great CPMs and CPCs, which fills your retargeting pool. Email and bots are killer for closing the loop as well. I would also recommend Tapjoy, which is great for getting that traffic. And there's a bunch of other places. But we have some questions. So, first question, Jackie Hansen, who, by the way, Jackie, I've been loving your questions here from this group. They've been really actionable, and I really appreciate it. So, and I know that we've been talking about trying to get you some more help. So follow up with that. Let's do it. So Jackie asked, what do we know about bots and Facebook rules? Well, we know two things. One, the bot rules are about to change. So keep an eye on that. The 24+1 rule is changing, and Mackenzie Lieberman in the ManyChat group just dropped a great video on strategy, and I highly recommend you hit her up or follow that. And I think she has a company called Orca something. Anyway, she's the best at ManyChat. But I would say that I love Facebook bots and rules, and that's part of this group. So one of the things that I use for that is running engagement campaigns to video content, especially live feeds. If your brand can do a live feed and then you run an engagement campaign to it, then everybody that comments on that can opt into a bot, and then you can follow up with them, and it's really, really easy to use that as a prospecting method for your brand, especially if it's not a direct sales kind of thing, but more of a service. It's a great way of providing a long tail on your value prop. Yeah, so that's a great way. Ryan asks, what about AdRoll? It's been killing it for me. And James Long, who's also in the Slack, says, what is the pricing structure for AdRoll and what does it do? So AdRoll is a third-party kind of retargeting platform that it's basically like a Google display. And in my experience, there's a limitation to how well it works, but it can do very well, especially if you don't have a very robust Google display game going. You want to get in for cheap. It's easy and it's good. What I would say is, I think it's great for step one. Once you start really leaning into it, it'll start to take credit for the work from other platforms. But I think it's a really good way of saying, I don't have the time to manage this thing, or I don't fully understand this thing, but I know that I want to have retargeting outside of just Facebook. AdRoll is a great place to do it. And Ryan looks like he's got a great relationship. So Ryan, hook it up with a contact, man. If you got a rep, let me know. Shit, I'll use them. And we'll target more people there. And so let's see if we can get you a discounted rate by getting your rep a shit ton of new business. That's what we do, right? That's what we do for each other. That's what this group's all about. And James, absolutely, I think that we've talked a little bit, and I think that this might be a great solution for you. Honestly, it was off my radar. And I don't think about it as often, but that's what this group's about, right? Helping people out. And I think that this could be really big for you. I don't think it's your prospecting solution, but I do think it's a great retargeting solution for you. So maybe I know that you had some issues with Tapjoy and their payment structure, and I've got some answers for you on that because I had a great conversation with Julia. But I think that this is a way that we might be able to get close some loops and make some sales for you. Anyway, so that will be great as well. Let's go to the next piece. Let's see. Mixed forms of media. Ooh, this one was a big hit. Okay. So using mixed forms of media. Often folks look at the demand of the quantity of creative and flat out give up. They're like, I don't know how to make, I've got one ad. I don't know how to make a bunch of things. So anyway, in here is a process of how to turn one video and make it 36 different ads. And so hopefully, I mean, I'm not going to go through this entirely right now, but this is a huge process, or a huge hack for your process to really make a bunch of ads from one. But in short, it's you can take your video and find a still image from it, and then start testing copy. And if you do that, you can make 36 ads from one video. So you pay somebody to make you a video. Hi, Tomas. I see your message. I'll get back to you after this live, and let's hunt that thing down for you. I know what you're chatting about. I saw your message, so we'll get to it right after this when we're done. Anyway, Tomas, by the way, is in the Slack, and he just hit me up on the private chat thing, and he's got a very good concern, so we're going to take care of it. Okay. So that being said, great. This is a really great way. The form of mixed media, what we're talking about here is Facebook. A lot of people run just a video, or they've got a still image or something like that. And what Facebook is recommending now, based on studies that maybe somebody that we know has done over the last year or so, and a few other people, like my buddy Mays and some other folks. Anyway, what they found is that running ads of mixed forms of media, still images, videos, long form, short form, allows Facebook to show your ad to the right type of person. Some people respond well to videos. Some people see an ad and they immediately reject it. Some people are like, well, I'll never click on a Facebook ad, but they see a video all the time and then immediately Google something and find it. And so there's a lot of different ways that Facebook shows content to people, and there's a lot of different ways that people like to see content. If you're only presenting one of those sales pitches, then you're missing out on a lot of people. Also, it's really valuable to see the right set of copy, the right headline, so that you know Facebook. The way people look at Facebook is, say this is an image, right? This is a coaster, but we're going to call this a Facebook ad. This is the picture. People will look at this picture. Then they'll look at the headline right below hand. Then they're going to look at the copy above, which is like the body. I think it's now called text. And then below that, then they'll look at the link description. Maybe. The news feed link description is the least common thing looked at. Now, we did about $1 million test when I was working with CBS and Nissan, several brands when I was at the big ad agency, to track people's eyeballs when they looked at ads. Super creepy shit. And it ended up being a big case study because we wanted to know what was the most important thing on making Facebook ad. And so this is how it's done. This piece of content, then the headline, then the body, or the text. So when you want to change an ad, the number one way to look at things is have something fundamentally different here in your creative. That's how you're going to reach different people. So if you have a video, the number one most fundamentally different way of changing it is do a still, right? So if you take your video, find a screenshot of it, or some frame from that video that does something, or something of the same shoot, and then you've got something that's related but fundamentally different, without having to shoot a whole new video or have a whole bunch of extra costs. Then you can take this headline and do something very different. So one headline might be huge sale now. The next headline might be click here to find out more. Those are very, very different pitches. One's a hard sell. One's asking people to take an interest. Then you can go up here. But if you start to take multiple forms of media, then you can really start to growth hack your creative process. And that will only lead to better creatives, because at the end of the day, you need more ads. Ads are the number one way of moving the needle on Facebook as far as performance is concerned. And the easiest way of doing that is a process that's laid out in that post. And again, if you take any of these posts I'm showing you here, they're all in the group. Copy and paste, take fucking credit for it. I don't give a shit. I'm posting other people's groups, you get 50% off a one-on-one, the Slack, the Patreon, anything. So take a look at it. Let me know. Let's see. We got a couple questions. Sahil just says this is lit. Yes, it is. Thank you. And then Eugenio Do you bundle them all inside of a single ad set? Yes, I do. When we're talking about, especially inside of bucket-based CBO, creative concept testing, the concept will be every one of these variations. So the concept might be, I have this picture or this video, and then I've got a picture, and then I've got maybe another picture, but I've got the same headline, same text, same news description. That's a concept. So then I can change the headline, launch it again, new concept. I can change the body, and then run it against both headlines. That's 2 more concepts. Now I've got 4 concepts. I have 1 video, 4 concepts. Maybe I recut that video and do the same thing again. Then that's 8 concepts, right? Maybe I take that video, but I add a little bit of text at the top and the bottom so it looks like a meme. Do the exact same process. Now that 8 concepts becomes 16 concepts, right? Maybe I add in another headline and repeat the whole process, and then I double everything. That's 32 concepts. That's how you maximize your creative efforts, and it's really easy. It's just a matter of rethinking the process. But once you create a template, it becomes extraordinarily simple to scale your delivery. So anyway, put them all inside of the same ad set and let them all compete. That's how you do bucket-based CBO. Let's see here now. Spend limits. All right. Hopefully this is valuable. I'm just going to keep going. Spend limits. CBO without restrictions will fail every time. CBO, by the way, is, and I'll keep this up on the screen, but CBO is designed to give the most action rates on your ads, which doesn't necessarily mean conversions. So CBO without spend limits will just have Facebook focus to where it finds the most opportunity for an action, not necessarily the best conversions objective for your business, because Facebook doesn't know your business, right? It's a fucking computer program. It doesn't know shit. So what we do is we put spend limits on it. Now what we can do is, when we do spend limits, it's very much like ad set limits or ad set budgets, as you're giving a range, right? Now, Noah asks, but how and when do you add new ad sets or ads to an existing CBO campaign without disturbing it? Well, this is where the budget and the limits come very handy. Say you've got a couple of ad sets and a campaign budget of $500, and you want to try a new ad set, and you don't want to disturb the other $500. Well, for instance here, you could set your spend limit to $50 and raise your budget from $500 to $550. Facebook will at most spend $50 on that new ad set, and it basically won't affect the performance of anything else inside of that campaign. It'll try to send a couple impressions to somewhere else, but because that new campaign, that new ad set should theoretically be a different audience, which is fundamentally different from the other audiences, it'll be incremental, so it's not really hurting the overall performance of the existing ad sets. And if you get a win there, then you can start to raise your limits on that new ad set and your budgets on your campaign, and that's how you scale inside of CBO. So Noah has a very good question, which leads to how to scale, and that's how you do it. Let's see here. What else do we got? This one was fun, and the only comment is last sentence, stick out the tongue. But this is client calls. I found the goal of client calls twofold. Give them sound bites to feel happy. Bengals call, grab Samaje Perine for all of you fantasy football people. Give them 3 to 5 sound bites and show them the value of spending 20% more. Remember, I was talking about when I was working in an ad agency, the main job is to get more money from somebody and to make the person that gave you money feel good. When you're working with a client, they don't give a shit about the numbers. They don't give a shit about your giant report. They really don't care. The number one objective of a client call is to get them on and off the phone as fast as possible, right? So find 3 to 5 things that they can sink their teeth into. I don't know who drive all those reactions, but thank you. Anything that they can sink their teeth into. Got you, Thomas. Don't worry. We're going to get there right now. So it might be like, if you say stuff like, oh, well, women 35 to 44 on mobile devices have a 10% higher conversion rate than women 55 to 65 on newsfeed ads, but on Instagram it's different. I already don't give a shit. Because your data doesn't provide an actionable insight. When you're on the phone with a client, what you're trying to do is give them something that they can go and be like, I understand this. I can take action because of it. I'm done. I'm ready to go do work. The point of the call is to inspire the client to go do work so they come back next week with more shit. That's it. If you've been on the phone for more than 45 minutes, you're probably way too deep in the weeds. Clients used to love me on phone calls because I would get off the phone, like we'd have a half an hour meeting. By minute 15, they're asking me questions. By minute 30, we're done. Clients will love you for that. And if you've got a good client relationship, honestly, that will do better than good performance almost all the time. Relationships are great. Performance, a client can always say that it's their fault if they love you. So your purpose of that call is just get on and off as fast as possible. Tomas asks, Charlie, hope you're doing well. I have 2 questions that might help other people. Love it. All right, number 1, I've recently heard that delaying pixel fires somehow helps with Facebook ads or something like that. What do you think? This is an old hack. There's definitely something to it. What it's saying is if you delay, if you say, oh, well, I'm only going to fire this pixel after 5 or 10 seconds, then I'm only really retargeting the people that really show an interest. The theory is that people that click on your site and then immediately leave shouldn't be retargeted, and that this will leave you a pool of people that are better. That's the thinking. The honest truth is that that's true. Facebook saw this a couple years ago and provided now with a time on site function. So you can say, I don't want to retarget everybody. I just want to retarget the people that have spent the top percentage of the time on site. So Facebook does this for you. In addition, Facebook doesn't show your ad to everybody. Facebook shows your ad to the people that it thinks are going to do best for you. So really what this is doing, and this is potentially taking a 1,000-person audience and shrinking it down to the 800 people by knocking out the 200 people that clicked away right away. So it's giving you a smaller audience, which means you're going to pay more in CPM because you pay a premium for the smaller the audience that you retarget. And maybe one of those people might have somebody that was good, but you're throwing out anybody. You're throwing out everybody right away. Whereas in Facebook, if you say top 5%, top 10, top 25% of people time on site, then yes, it's going to take that 1,000 people down to like a couple hundred people, but you can extend your window to much longer. So it's not necessarily, maybe it's 1,000 people in the last day, but if you go to the last week, now it's the last, like, instead of 1,000, it's maybe 1,500 people, but it's only the best 1,500 people. And that's a larger audience, so you're actually going to get improved performance. So you can solve the problem in a different, smarter way. And that's a much better way to do it. I would even say that you can do maybe top 25% time on site for the last week, top 10% for the last month, and top 5% for the last 6 months. You're going to have this really interesting and effective retargeting journey where you're basically just saying, as the time away from their action gets greater, I want to focus only on the people that spend the most time on my site, because if people spend time on their site, they're likely to take an action. And that's what this hack is trying to deliver. But Facebook has a much more elegant solution that does it automatically, that doesn't necessarily eliminate anybody, and honestly does a much better job. Second, when launching new ad sets, it might be a good idea to launch them later in the day so Facebook is forced to spend the money faster, which increases CTR. The rest of it, let me just shut it off right there. Facebook won't spend your daily budget every day. If you launch at noon, Facebook will spend roughly about half of your budget. If you spend it later in the day, it won't force the spend day one. launch your ad when it's ready to launch. Time of day doesn't really mean shit. This is a hack that's easy to explain, so people will look at it because it's easy for a guru to teach. The time of day doesn't really make any difference, especially when you're running a lot of ads. When you're running a lot of ads in a lot of places with a lot of money, performance in that first 3 hours doesn't mean shit 3 weeks later. Some people would say, well, this ad got greater performance on day one, it's going to get better than this ad that didn't get great performance on day one. What I would say is great. What does it look like in a week? What does it look like in a month? What I can tell you is every single person that I've challenged with that question has come back with 0 answers. Nobody's been able to prove to me ever that an ad that was launched at 9 a.m. Did better or worse than an ad that launched at 9 p.m. purely because of the time of day. I've actually launched the same ad, identical versions at the same time or different times, and all that really matters is that it got the luck of the draw right away. But after a week or 2 weeks, a good ad will outperform a bad ad, regardless of anything else. And remember, we're trying to build businesses here, not get rich quick overnight. So you don't give a shit. Actually, I'd even argue that trying to hack this would be bad for your business because, oh, well, it looked great on day one. Let me dump money into it. By day 3, it looks great. What happens later? You hack the system a little bit and then you get bad performance and then you throw all your profits trying to recover that performance as it drops off because you got some artificially good number and then you spent all of your profits killing your business. So don't worry about it. I would argue it's a bad idea and that I've never once seen anybody with data show me any benefit after 72 hours. And you say, well, what about the first 72 hours? If you need an ad to kick ass in the first 72 hours, then you're focusing on the wrong thing. Because remember, Facebook isn't what makes or break your business. Facebook scales results. If your business is failing, Facebook will scale your failure. If your business is kicking ass, Facebook will scale the kicking assness of your business. Yes, that's a sentence. Anyway, there you go. Let's see here. Nope. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. All right. How to properly use lookalike audiences. Everyone's favorite audiences for prospecting are lookalikes. I see so many people. I see so many being used and all the time, and it's great because of the way they work, but I also see them being used to a way that makes sense on the surface, but crushes potential ROAS. A lookalike audience is an audience built off of data that you have, usually Facebook pixel data. Facebook uses the data you have, you give it, and makes audiences of millions of people who behave similarly, hence lookalike. Because a lookalike is built off of data, the more data you give it, the better. Lookalike 1% is just under 2 million people in the United States. I think it's now a little over 2 million people. I wrote this a little while ago, but I use it all the time because it's not old. It's not out of date yet. Also, the more data you can get, why make a lookalike off of site traffic from the last week when you can make one from the last 6 months? All you do is you limit your data set and effectively reduce the potential of your lookalike. Unless you have a new business or a new objective or something, making your lookalike audience off the largest amount of data is the best thing you can do. If you have something new going on, then make it from the beginning of the new thing. Hopefully that makes sense. If you launched a new site last week, don't do all pixel traffic from the last 6 months. Do it from the last week for that objective. Lastly here, use a lookalike as best as possible. Run a 1% and scale spend until performance caps out. Then run a 2% and repeat. When the lookalike percent is too broad and stops delivering a profit, change your objective to add to cart and use that to scale your retargeting. So this is a bit of a dangerous suggestion, but what I'm getting at here is 1% lookalike almost always will do better than a 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 because it's closer to the data set. So it should perform best. Now, sometimes you'll get weird results where lookalike 4 to 6 is better than 1 to 2 or something like that. And, you know, that happens. It's the exception to the rule, but everybody's seen it happen once or twice. What I would say is kill it at 1%. And then the way you scale is then add at 2%. So you're basically adding an incremental percentage to your first piece. So saying, I've got a great 2 million person audience, and I'm going to do another 2 million person audience, which is slightly less value than the first one. And then ramp up in your percentages. That is a really, really easy way of doing it. The other way of doing it would be to say, take a 1%, and if that works, and we've talked about this for bucket-based, and then go like a 10%. So whereas 1 is the highest quality user, the 10% is going to give you a lower CPM because it's a much larger audience, because it's really like a 20 million person audience instead of a 2 million person audience. Whereas the 2% is still a 2 million person audience, but it's like 1% to 2% or something like that, right? So it's just a slightly lower quality than the 1. So the idea there is you've got one that's the smallest audience of highest value, and then the largest audience you can build off of that good data set, so you're getting it for cheaper. So while you have higher volume of lower quality, it might pan out to have this like, you know, as one's volume and one's quality, you can kind of work between those. And depending on your ads that you're using, you might, you know, there's some cross section there or coefficient that makes it work. It can get really fancy. I would say you have 2 routes. One is 1% in broad, which will generally do pretty well if your creative is good. And then if you want to, if that's working, your next way is going to 2% to 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. Or you can do 1% in broad and then dropping to 10%, because you're basically shrinking that broad way down, but it's fundamentally different than your 1%. I know that that's a lot of theory talk, but I want to really get into the last piece here, where when your lookalike percentage is too broad and stops delivering a profit, change the objective to add to cart and use that to scale your retargeting. A lot of times I see people trying to, and I always tell people, start at retargeting, build your way up. And then people forget that you can change the objective. I always say run on a conversion objective, and I almost always tell people to go for a purchase. However, if you're trying to scale an account and your retargeting is really good, like say you're at cart abandoners to the last, you know, your add to cart one day is crushing, and you want to scale that, then you can use a larger lookalike audience, like that lookalike 10%, and target just to add to carts. And what you'll have there is a lot of people who are window shoppers, but you're hoping to ramp up the spend of your add to carts. So maybe you can spend $100 a day on add to carts. And if you run a prospecting campaign just to add to cart, where you're spending like $50 a day, maybe you can increase your add to cart spend by another 25 or $50 a day. But you're doing it at like over a 2x, so it pays for the prospecting. It's a bit of a math equation, but if your profit margin holds, then it makes sense, right? So if you're spending $50 a day on prospecting, where you might get a couple sales, and you're targeting to add to carts, and you're retargeting add to cart, but because you launched this prospecting campaign, you can also add $50 a day to your add to cart budget. If that add to cart budget comes in at a 2x, then it's paying for the prospecting, and the prospecting is fueling it. You're cash positive. It's a bit complicated, but it's a great way of an alternative way of scaling a brand. And you know, I'm not about always doing the easy ones here. Some stuff here is for the more advanced people. And that is definitely like a pro hack. Like I wouldn't get into that unless you are really robust. But if you are really robust, it's a great way of scaling shit up. Especially if you have larger consideration products, higher cost items, or things that take a while for somebody to make a decision. Doing something like that will increase the size of your retargeting pools. And it's very much like running an engagement campaign and then retargeting your engagers, or running a traffic campaign and retargeting site traffic. Running an add to cart campaign and then retargeting cart abandoners is a way of scaling it. And I like that because it's very, very close to the conversion objective. People generally add to cart because they're interested in the product. I wouldn't go so high as like a view content or site traffic because people just killing time on the internet will click on anything. Adding to cart genuinely shows an interest. Let's see. Well, I think that is about it for everything. Okay, so we're like an hour and a half. There is one other piece in here, and I'm going to end with this, unless we have any more questions in the live. And also, if you're watching this in September or fucking February of 2020, I don't care. Go ahead and ask a question, tag me in it, and I'll get back to you at any point in time. So the last thing that I did was, have you evaluated the actual value of your retargeting campaigns? And I basically got two answers. No, what's that mean? Or yes, but anything over 1 day hurts my overall performance. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I know some of these people. And yeah, know some of these people. Okay, great. And Rabba even asked, who's great, and he's an OG. He's one of the guys that followed me around really early. And kept asking me to do my own group, and he's been in the Slack for months and months and months. But Robert asked great topics, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. I get so much pushback sometimes on retargeting, and I don't exactly know why. Not drop some knowledge bombs on us. Here we go for dessert on our big course meal for the week. I tried to go a little long here because I didn't do a live last week, so I really wanted to ramp it up. Maybe that was 2 weeks ago. I don't even remember. But anyway, so here's how we do it. Number one, have you evaluated the actual value of retargeting campaigns? So what I mean by that is, because so many people say no, what's that mean? Let me answer that question. What I mean is, how much is the retargeting bringing to your table? What is the overall value? Now, when I make a Scrum doc for people, and I've got prospecting campaigns and retargeting campaigns, and we can show the effects of those side by side, I can say an answer to that question might be, well, we spend 30% of our money on retargeting, and it brings 60% of our revenue. And say our goal cost per whatever is $50. Then maybe retargeting brings people in at like 30 and prospecting brings people in at 80 or whatever. Then you have an idea of what the value of your retargeting is. And the reason that this is really important is because most businesses will actually, hi Chris, I think you were actually in this thing. So it was a poll question from earlier this week. And I think I'm going to try to do this once a week. So if you guys like it, I'll keep going on it. So the value of your retargeting, one of the really valuable things is you can run a successful Facebook account. Actually, most successful Facebook accounts, one of the great ways of scaling it is to not rely on prospecting to break even or bring a profit. If you know that 60% of your revenue is coming from your retargeting, and let's say your goal is, let's say the same example, say your goal is $50 cost per sale, right? And your retargeting is coming at $30, then you know that you don't necessarily need to run your prospecting at $50. You could run your prospecting at maybe $60. So maybe you're making a 0.9 ROAS on prospecting, but it means that you've got a much larger retargeting pool. And if you have a much larger retargeting pool where you're getting like a 2x return, then, or a 3x return, or whatever it is, then you know that you can ultimately match your goal for your brand without necessarily making a profit on first touch on prospecting. And so that is one of the big ways of understanding the value of your retargeting campaigns. Another way of looking at it is saying that, okay, well, I've got retargeting campaigns and I'm going out retargeting my site traffic for the last 30 days, and I know I'm getting like a 1.5 on that, and my prospecting is getting me whatever. Sometimes, while that retargeting audience does bring you a profit, one of the changes, and this goes against some of the things that I was talking about a year ago, because Facebook has evolved, right? And things aren't necessarily the same. You have to be like water, and here's where I was right before, and I'm wrong now. So let me give you an update. Is that it doesn't necessarily, and this is why I asked the question of anything one day hurts my overall performance, is that maybe retargeting traffic from the last 30 days gives you a profit, but excluding that audience from your prospecting hurts your prospecting more than the benefit you get of retargeting those people. And one of the biggest places that we've seen this, and we had a big long thing here, is retention campaigns. If you treat previous buyers differently, and I've seen this time and again, where I want to exclude all my previous buyers from my prospecting efforts. Okay. That means my prospecting campaigns are going to perform worse because previous, especially if you're a brand where people buy from you, say every month or every 2 months, right? Let's say it's Morrison's dog food, and the dog food runs out, and you need to buy more, right? That little guy. Then if you say, well, somebody bought from me before, so they should buy from me again, great. Then you really don't need to run Facebook ads for anybody that's bought before. But what I would say is maybe 10, 20% of the people that bought from you before buy from you again. But there's a bunch of people that go down to 7-Eleven and just buy some shit, or they're in the grocery store and they buy some shit, or they get hit with another ad from another company and they don't care. Brand loyalty in today's age on digital marketing is very, very low. So unless somebody's bought from you a lot of times, they really don't care about your brand. So when we saw this in retention was when we removed the exclusion of previous purchasers from prospecting, when we treated previous buyers as just a retargeting audience, instead of excluding it from everybody, all performance got better. And why did this happen? It happened because we were splitting the pie less. So say an add to cart on somebody that was previously bought versus an add to cart of people that hadn't previously bought was 2 pools. Let's say it's 1,000 people that add to cart. Well, 400 of them over here and 600 of them over here. What do we know? We know that a smaller audience costs more money. And we know that the more you can centralize your data and simplify your ad account, the better performance is going to be. So if you can take 20 campaigns and make it a dozen campaigns by removing this extra segmentation of previous buyers, then you can get a more efficient account. Remember, we talked about this before, and we did a big long thing of how I took a brand from like basically how I was able to scale spend every day for like 2 weeks or whatever, and improve profitability by removing this segmentation. I think I raised spend by 50% and doubled profitability. And it was by doing that with other things, but that was a big chunk of it was removing this segmentation. So when we go back to the value of your retargeting, I would look at really taking a good focus, a deep dive into your performance to say, does this retargeting actually help my bottom line? Because if you're retargeting an audience, best practice says that you should exclude that audience from your other campaigns, right? Prospecting audiences exclude your retargeting so that no one person can be in two places at once. Because paying for that person twice is bad. That holds true. But does targeting this audience down here really help? Because you have to exclude them from up here. And what I found a lot of times is, and that's why I added in this layer, but anything over 1 day hurts my overall performance. 1 day is really strong retargeting. But maybe 7 days doesn't really help out. And I see this a lot where somebody's prospecting might be like a 1.1, right? Great, you're making a little bit of money on prospecting. And then your 1 day retargeting gets you like a 3 or a 2.5 or something, great. But your 7 day retargeting is basically like a 1.1 or a 1.5, and it's kind of intermittent. Some days it's great, some days it's not. You can't really spend a lot against it. But when you excluded that 7 day audience from your prospecting went from like a 1.2 or 1.1 down to like a 0.9 or a 1 because you're excluding those people from being part of that prospecting pool. What happens is your retargeting isn't as valuable as just letting it be open. So this is a thing that you need to really look at when you're doing retargeting, and that's why I say always start from the bottom. Start with the most recent person you can, your 1 day audience, and treat them separately. Now, there's an argument here to be made, and it's something that I'm testing, but where you go for very long retargeting windows. So this is where maybe anybody that's engaged with your brand in the last year is a retargeting audience, and you exclude them from prospecting. Now, why does the 7 day window not perform as well? Is because while it's a quality audience, it's also really small. So maybe if you go to 6 months or a year, depending on what your pixel data is, then you get some efficiencies. I've seen this a lot where one of the audiences that's been really well for me lately is add to cart from the last 6 months that hasn't bought. Now that's a shit ton of people. It's large enough for Facebook to get some good efficiencies with, and I can exclude them from my prospecting because that person's already made the effort to go in. And basically what happens is I get a better result. You can also say instead of, you can also say site traffic from the last 6 months. Anybody that's been to my page for the last 6 months, I'm going to exclude them from prospecting. So now you're looking at, okay, that's a retargeting audience, but it's large enough that I can treat them differently. It's essentially still a prospecting audience. And I could make the argument that you include that in a prospecting campaign, not a retargeting campaign. But it's how you look at it. But I find more and more that these super long retargeting windows are basically just a retargeting audience. And that's where you can really kind of go with prospecting, mid-funnel, bottom funnel. Your bottom funnels, I've got my bottom funnel now basically to a 1 day audience. And my mid-funnel is as long as I possibly can. So my mid-funnel might be 90 day or 6 month or a year. But they know who I am. But it's a large enough pool of people that I can get an efficiency from Facebook. And you can see your efficiencies by looking at the CPMs and your conversion rates. If your CPMs in retargeting are basically around the same level as your CPMs in prospecting, then it's a worthwhile enough audience to run on its own. The only argument against that is if the profit margin is steady and really high, then it's worth it. So your add to cart 1 day might be a 50 CPM, but you're getting a 3x ROAS. Keep it live. Say your prospecting is coming in at like a 15. Whereas maybe your site traffic from the last 30 days is bringing you like a $35 CPM, but the ROAS isn't that much better than your prospecting. If you eliminate it and the exclusion from prospecting, your prospecting will get better. And you're basically reaching more people for cheaper, so that value of that retargeting audience isn't that strong. Whereas maybe the engagers from the last year as an audience gives you $20 CPM. So say your prospecting is 15, that gets you a 20, and it gets you like a 1.5 or a 1.3 ROAS, whereas prospecting gets you a 1.1. Now you know, okay, this audience is actually better for me to spend money against than the other one. And yes, it will dry up, and it is, a finite pool, but I can profit there. Which means now I've got basically an audience of people that have abandoned cart, people that have engaged my brand in the last year, and then people that have not done that. That's a very, very simple funnel. That's 3 audiences. Maybe 4. Maybe it's a lookalike 1%, abroad, engaged with me in the last 365 days, and add to cart 1. That right there will probably you'll be able to spend a couple $100 a day on Facebook and probably at least be able to break even. And that's simple as fuck. But I'm doing that right now with some brands, and relying on Tapjoy to bring in top line revenue at a profit, and then using that to run business at a bit of a loss, but increase revenue is great. And we're running at a loss right now just because we're doing creative testing. And as soon as that creative testing really hits a home run, there's some, parts of it where we're profiting and some where we're losing. But overall, the brand is still coming in at above goal. So we're in a really good place. And how do you scale that? Is getting the creative testing down so your retargeting profit margins are higher, and then pushing your bid on Tapjoy so that you get more traffic. And then, you get a little bit less profit on Tapjoy, but you're getting more profit from your retargeting, and you're getting more volume overall. So because you're getting more revenue, you can spend more money in prospecting, and you're just scaling your business. So anyway, the value of a retargeting, that's what it really means. So hopefully there's some good, as Robert put it, knowledge bombs in there for you. And we'll go from that. So last question from Tomas, and then we're coming up on 2 hours, and my coffee is almost empty, and well, we'll call it a day there. But here we go. Tomas says, I was split testing cold audiences with one excluding purchasers and the other not. The results were crazy. On the ad sets excluding purchasers, my CPM was 300 USD in the USA. With the ones that didn't have the exclusion, the CPM was 30. I don't know if this is some bug or something, but after this 2 or 3 days until I turn them off. Tomas, that's definitely extreme. Wildly extreme. But it is a sign of things that I've found. The biggest sin that I've seen brands make, and I've had to step away from a brand because they weren't really able to see past this, was you want the platform to perform as strong as possible. That doesn't necessarily mean, all that really means is you want it to do well. However it does well should be your objective. If you as a brand think that previous purchasers should be treated differently, then you as a brand need to show that performance in a way that's strong enough for me as a Facebook advertiser to take your objectives to heart. Now, what I mean by that is, if your previous purchasers are strong, then theoretically, if I include them, all I'm doing, you're getting the people that fall through the cracks because your email, your chatbot, your site, your customer journey alone should have that person make repeated purchases. Which means that, say, you're excluding purchasers from the last 30 days from your prospecting audiences, or the last 7 days or whatever, you're giving those other channels the opportunity to make that conversion, whether that other channel is email or chatbot or customer service or just somebody using your product and coming back for more. Like, say, Morrison's dog food, right? So let's say his dog food lasts for 2 weeks, right? Buy the product, gets it overnight or a week or whatever. After 14 to 20 days, I'm in this position where I need to buy more. Now, if my product experience or the email or phone calls, customer service, chatbot, whatever, is strong enough to get me to buy, then I won't ever see a Facebook ad again because I will have made the purchase. And if I'm excluding buyers from the last 30 days and I'm making a purchase every 20 some odd days, well, I'll never see a Facebook ad. The only time I'll ever see one is if those channels fail. So, in that way, Facebook is just giving incremental value. When I treat all those previous buyers as a pool inside of retargeting, theoretically be like, well, these are previous buyers. They're all going to do really well. I'm going to segment them out separately, and it's going to be a pool of whatever it is, and I'm going to do really well against them. The honest truth is, it's probably not going to happen. And I used to, 9 months ago, a year ago, I was preaching this stuff, and I learned that Facebook changed, and we changed what we were talking about here, and that treating those customers differently probably isn't a good idea because that customer is somebody that basically already told you to go fuck yourself. Because they bought from you once, they didn't make an effort on their own to buy again. Everything that you've done from email to customer service to chatbot, phone calls, whatever, didn't get them to buy. And now, as you're spending money on them, they're still not converting. So that person basically is checked out from you. They're effectively a prospecting audience because you have to sell them again. I would say, and this is the argument that I've made repeatedly, is that most products sold online and in stores are the same as cigarettes and soda, right? Or gum. Like when you go to the 7-Eleven and you buy, or beer or whatever. So say you go to 7-Eleven and you buy a single can of Diet Coke. Some advertisers, old school advertisers, will say, well, that person's already bought from us again. We don't need to spend money on converting them. Effectively, what you're saying in the real world is once you buy a 12-ounce can of Coke, you should never, ever see a Coke ad again. Because your experience says that I'm going to buy Coke from forever moving forward, or that customer is invaluable. So theoretically, in this world, it doesn't exist. When you buy a single 12-ounce can of Coke and you walk back into the 7-Eleven, there's no single serving sodas from the Coke brand visible to you. You can't purchase them. They don't exist. Same thing for cigarettes or gum or whatever. We know that that's bullshit. And no brand would ever run like that in the real world. But some brands treat that in Facebook very much that way. So what I'm getting at is this is really understanding the value of these people for you and really understand what retargeting brings to the table and what existing customers brings to the table. And in my experience, making simpler customer journeys improves performance. Only exclude audiences that aren't of value or that you're retargeting. If somebody bought from you today, likelihood is they don't really bring value to you tomorrow. But Facebook might see, oh, that's somebody that might take an action because they just took an action yesterday, they'll probably take an action today. Excluding them will improve performance up to a certain point. I would say understand how, if you have a product that people buy repeatedly, understand the regular cadence of that product. In this example, it's dog food that people buy every 2 weeks. If by week 3 that person hasn't bought the product, run a Facebook ad on them. And if that person doesn't show great loyalty in that when people buy a product, maybe less than 80% of the people buy a second time, or less than 50%, or less than 20% of people buy a second time, then all they are is a warm prospecting audience. I would even go so far as to say there's no reason to target them at all, which goes to Tomas's point. So just exclude buyers from the last 14 days or 20 days or 30 days, whatever it is, and your prospecting audience should perform better. So to use this all out, to rehash again, it goes back to the lookalikes and the broad, and then the ad engagers or site traffic on the last however long, and then add the cards. That's a very simple campaign. That's a very simple, Facebook ad account, 2 campaigns, right? Prospecting and retargeting. But that'll crush. You're going to spend thousands a day against that simple setup. And then you just have a creative testing campaign for stuff that you're dropping into it. So anyway, hopefully that helps out everybody. It's 2 hours, so I'm good. I hope you're good. This was a fucking great live. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your questions, and hope to see you guys later. I know there's a couple of you still watching, so it's been 2 hours in. Remember, if you find value in this, please invite one friend to the group this week. I really appreciate it. Do any of the homework from any of the group, for any of the weeks, and get half off any of the things. I love you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Next week we start Saturdays because football. All right, see ya. Bye.